Okay, good afternoon and welcome to Super Bowl 53. We could not be more excited to be here in Atlanta as we celebrate the final Super Bowl of the NFL's first century. This season has demonstrated that there's never been a better time to be part of the NFL. As a fan, as a player, as a team, or as a partner. Our game is getting better and better, and our engagement and popularity is unmatched in today's media landscape. We are following our fans and delivering football where they want to be. Mobile, social, and yes, even on Fortnite. We are grateful to the more than 180 million fans who tuned in each week to watch our 32 teams. With veteran stars and exciting newcomers, our team showed our fans what it means to compete week in and week out for a Super Bowl championship. Super Bowl 53 matchup is a fitting conclusion to this amazing season. The New England Patriots, making their 11th overall Super Bowl appearance, led by the legendary Tom Brady and Bill Belichick. Who could say more? And the Los Angeles Rams, led by Jared Goff and Sean McVay, a season for the ages for these young stars. Next year, we will celebrate 100 seasons of professional football, a game that brings people together. As we approach this milestone, it is only fitting that we are here in Atlanta, a city of milestones, a city of progress. Atlanta is a pillar of the civil rights movement, the birthplace of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., and the home of civil rights icons like Congressman John Lewis and Ambassador Andrew Young. We are proud to devote much of this week to honoring that legacy, the men and women who fought it and contributed so much to our country. A special thank you to our host, Arthur Blank, and the entire Falcons organization. Mercedes-Benz Stadium is one to be proud of, a phenomenal showcase for the game we all love. Mayor Bottoms, thank you for your leadership and support in helping us prepare for Super Bowl 53. We truly feel at home. We have all benefited greatly from the hard work of the Atlanta Host Committee, spearheaded by Dan Corso, Carl Atkins, and Brett Daniels. And to the thousands of volunteers, thank you. Without you, this would not be possible. And finally, many thanks to all of you for your coverage throughout the season. I'll be happy to take your questions.
Roger, over here on this side. Barry Wilner from the Associated Press.
Yes, Barry.
In an AP report this morning, we pointed out that the number of minority head coaches went from 8 to a presumed 4. Minority offensive coordinators are currently at 2, which is up from 1 last season. There were 3 minority quarterback coaches last season. How big of a concern is the lack of minorities in the offensive coordinator and quarterback coach positions from which many head coaches rise? And what steps will the Rooney Rule, can be taken to increase those totals to provide more minority head coach opportunities?
Well, Barry, first, we don't look at the success or failure of the Rooney Rule in one-year increments. We've had the Rooney Rule around for nearly 20 years. It's had an extraordinary impact on the NFL. Over 20 clubs have hired minority coaches since that period of time. And it's also been a signal for other industries throughout the world, frankly, to adopt a Rooney Rule to change their organizations, and I think it has. It created opportunity. It's given people an opportunity that have not had them in the past, and that's at the core of what we're looking for. Second, I would say, as it relates specifically to offensive coaches, we all believe, in talking with the Fritz Pollard Alliance, which we did quite a bit late this fall, particularly in how we improve the Rooney Rule itself, which we made changes to that you're aware of. But beyond that, what we wanted to do is figure out how we can continue to create a deeper pool of coaches so that they have that opportunity when the coaching opportunities arise. So we've focused on a few things. We're going to meet with them again at the Combine in February. We're going to have several coaches there with us that are going to give their perspective. And we're going to focus on those opportunities to create a deeper pool, more experience, give them opportunity. And we believe that that is something that is critical for us going forward to make sure we continue the progress that we've had. One of those ideas that we're going to focus on is going to be what we're calling a quarterback summit, which we'll do in June with Morehouse College. It's something that we think with Shaq Harris and a number of other NFL executives that we can help train, give opportunities, manage, and hopefully do some mentoring and help advance those coaches so that they do get that opportunity.
Yes, D. Orlando Ledbetter of the Atlanta Journal-Constitution.
I can't see it. I'm
over
sorry.
here,
Okay, yep.
Roger.
Yep.
What must Atlanta do here the rest of the week to ensure that there's not another 19-year gap between hosting Super Bowls? And how has the city performed thus far given the weather scare earlier in the week?
Well, first, Atlanta has done an incredible job. I met with our team yesterday and again this morning that have been down here preparing for this game. I think all the preparations that need to be made have been made. Everybody has worked tirelessly to be prepared for this. I met with many of the business leaders, the mayor and the governor last week in New York. The enthusiasm, the hospitality, and the desire to make sure that they put Atlanta on the big stage in a way that will reflect incredibly well is all of our objective. We all want to do that. And I believe that they're going to do that. We're early in the week, but we see no reason why this isn't going to be a great Super Bowl. As it relates to when we come back, as you know, they get more and more competitive. More and more cities want to host the Super Bowl. We think that's great, but it is a challenge for us to meet all those demands. But I also believe not only is this city an incredibly important city to us, but I think the new stadium is one that I think everyone's going to marvel at on Sunday. I just think it's an extraordinary stage for all of us.
Roger, Sam Farmer, Los Angeles Times. 3 of the 4 California teams are currently playing in temporary stadiums. Are you optimistic that Oakland and the Raiders can set aside their differences so that the team can spend a final season in the Coliseum? And if not, do you expect the Raiders to stay in the Bay Area? Is San Diego a realistic option for a year before they move to Las Vegas? And at what point does the uncertainty become a problem for the league in terms of scheduling?
Well, Sam, many of those issues are obviously issues that the Raiders are taking the lead on. They've been having a variety of discussions with officials, looking at their options, making sure that they evaluate that. It's unfortunate that litigation was filed prior to their final season in Oakland, but that's the reality. That was filed by the city. I'm hopeful that they'll get a resolution soon. As far as timing, the key thing on the timing is our schedule. We need to make a schedule, obviously, for the 2019 season, and that the sooner the better for us with that. I couldn't hear you, Sam.
viable? Would San Diego be viable as an
I
option
think the
fallback?
hope of Mark is to continue to be in the Bay Area with his Raider fans.
Roger, to your right. Ben Volen from the Boston Globe. Wanted
Yeah.
to ask you about Josh Gordon. I know over the years you struck up a relationship with him, have grown fond of him. Have you had any contact with him since his suspension, and do you foresee a path back to the NFL, or is that door closed?
Well, Ben, directly, I have not spoken to him since this last suspension. As you know, he's in treatment. You know, he's a young man who's had a lot of challenges. I have gotten to know him. I understand the struggles and the challenges that he's had to go through. And he is working at it. He understands what he has to do. He understands the importance for him. And this is well beyond football. This is for his life. And to make sure that he takes care of himself and he understands the importance of getting this issue under control and being able to live a healthy and long life. If he can, we'll evaluate that at the right time. But right now, the focus is what can we do to help Josh get to that place?
Roger, Jeff Duncan of NOLA.com and the Times-Picayune in New Orleans, where you are a trending topic once again. Just in time for Mardi Gras, I might add.
Can't wait to see that.
Can you address the no call that marred the end of the NFC Championship game, specifically what and how the league handled it internally, both that night and in the days thereafter? Will there be any repercussions on the officials involved? And finally, what can the league do, if anything, to ensure that something like this doesn't happen again?
Well, Jeff, let me start just on the basis, listen, we understand the frustration of the fans. I've talked to Coach Payton, the team, the players. We understand the frustration that they feel right now, and we certainly want to address that. So whenever an officiating is part of any kind of discussion post-game, it's never a good outcome for us. We know that, our clubs know that, our officials know that. But we also know our officials are human. We also know that they're officiating a game that moves very quickly and have to make snap decisions under difficult circumstances. And they're not going to get it right every time. As I say, they're human. We have worked very hard to bring technology in to try to make sure we could do whatever's possible to address those issues. But technology is not going to solve all those issues. The game is not officiated by robots. It's not going to be. But we have to continue to go down that path. Go back specifically on Sunday night, I think Coach Payton spoke to Al Riveron, our head of officials, immediately after the game. Al told him that that's a play we want to have called. I have spoken to him. Troy Vincent, the head of football operations, have spoken to him. I've spoken to Mrs. Benson. Coach has also spoken to the competition committee, Rich McKay, the chairman. So there's been a great deal of communication and making sure that they understand that. As far where we can go, we will look again at instant replay. There have been a variety of proposals over the last, frankly, 15, 20 years of should replay be expanded. It does not cover judgment calls. This was a judgment call. The other complication is that it was a no call. And our coaches and clubs have been very resistant, and there has not been support to date about having a replay official or somebody in New York throw a flag when there's no flag. They have not voted for that in the past. It doesn't mean that we won't. It's something that we're going to put to the competition committee, see if there's an answer to that. But the reality is that's been at least an opposition philosophically for many clubs.
Roger, Bob Glauber over here from Newsday. Has your thinking evolved on the idea of using replay to cover officiating calls? And if so, do you have a do you have a line of thinking about whether you would recommend to the competition committee, which you have done before on other issues, that they think seriously about including penalties in the replay review system?
Well, Bob, first off, I thought you were going to ask about AR, but you didn't today. But as it relates to what I think my role is to make sure that the competitions committee understands that this is critical for us to analyze, to evaluate, and try to see if there's a better solution than what we have today. As you know, our rules do evolve. We have made changes to our rules every year. We try to get better. We try to learn. And I think that has been very effective. I think the game has never been healthier. I don't think the game has ever been officiated at this level. It's extraordinary. And I want to say about our officials, they're men and women of high integrity. And they're people that, when people are talking about officiating, they know that's not the outcome they want. And so I know they're disappointed also, but they work hard to make sure we improve officiating, and I think they do an excellent job. But as I say, they're human. I think the committee will definitely consider this. Is always what happens in the competition committee is not just considering a solution, but what are the unintended consequences to that solution. And that's part of this issue of not wanting a replay official or an official back in New York throwing a flag on a no call. If that happens, you could have multiple fouls on a play that people are looking at. Now, there's solutions for this, and I'm not suggesting that. That's what the committee has to focus in on. What are the solutions? What are the unintended consequences? And come up with something that we think can keep the competitive nature of our game, but also improve officiating.
Commissioner Richard Graves from Sky Sports in the UK. The NFL have announced there'll be 4 games once again this year going forward, 2 of which will be played at Tottenham Hotspur's new stadium. I wonder, what is the vision now, as far as the NFL is concerned, for football in the UK, and how much closer, if at all, do you feel we are to this idea of having a team based over there?
Well, Richard, we've been extraordinarily pleased with the reaction we've got by playing regular season games in the UK. The fans there are really fantastic. They have shown passion. They have shown the same type of knowledge and interest in our game that we experience right here in the United States. And so I don't think it's a question of the fan base or their enthusiasm for it. I also don't think it's a question of viable stadiums. As you know, we've been fortunate to play in Wembley, Twickenham, and we are now looking at playing at Tottenham, which we hope to be doing this fall. They're all extraordinary facilities. We've also had tremendous support commercially. Not only from a media standpoint, but sponsors and licensees. There's a tremendous amount of support there. I think the issue for us still is, can we do this competitively for the team that is based in London, but also for the other 31 clubs? That involves scheduling and involves a lot of other matters that you don't want to compromise. And until we can get comfortable with that, I don't think we'll be necessarily NFL ready in London, but I do believe that a tremendous amount of progress is happening there. And if I look back over the last roughly 10 years of the regular season series, I would have never thought that we have the success that we have. And I think that's a tribute to our fans in London.
Roger, over here, Mark Maskey from the Washington Post.
Yes, Mark.
Roger, did you believe that the NFL rulebook gave you the authority to overturn the result of the Rams-Saints games if you had chosen to do so and order the game replayed from the point of the missed call? And if so, did you give any consideration at all to that?
Mark, absolutely not. I mean, I think it's clear, and I actually wrote down the rule, which I think has been distributed to the media, but the commissioner will not apply his authority in cases of complaints by clubs concerning judgmental errors or routine errors by game officials. Games involving such complaints will continue to stand as completed. So that was not a consideration.
Hey, Roger. Jared Bell, USA
Jared.
Today. I got a 2-for-1 here.
You always do, Jared.
But, just to add on to the discussion about expanding replay and obviously knowing your involvement and your recommendations in the past on things like the catch rule, is it almost fair to expect it to be a bare minimum that you will kind of advise the committee to consider helmet to helmet as a reviewable play as you talk about expanding instant replay? That's the first question. The second one is about the Kaepernick effect. When you think about the stain on the NFL shield, which is reflected by artists not wanting to associate with the NFL and the halftime show and things of that nature, what can you do to reverse that sentiment?
Well, let me start with your helmet-to-helmet issue. I'm not going to advise on a solution to the helmet-to-helmet. That's what our committee is for. I will work with them. I'll meet with them. I'll give them my opinion. We'll push the committee to make sure that we're thinking about every creative solution possible. But when you go back and look at the season on the helmet-to-helmet, I think the changes that were made were extraordinarily important to our players and to the game of football. I think most people would have seen it very easily. I certainly noticed, and our football people noticed, a change in the way the game is played. It was safer. Techniques that we find dangerous to our players were taken out of the game, and that's critical. And I believe that our players and our coaches did a marvelous job of adjusting to that. There was a lot of discussion, as you know, prior to the season. We dealt with it with fouls on the field, fines, and also warning letters. I think we had less than 10 repeat offenders throughout the entire season. So that demonstrates to me a tremendous job by everyone. People in our office, in the football operations, our players, our coaches, communicating, understanding what we're looking for. And this was driven by our coaches, Jared, as you know. And I think that's the critical nature of this. And so we're going to look at that, see what else we can do. That may or may not include a replay. We'll have to look at that. And your second one, we have great artists performing all week here in Atlanta. We're extremely pleased with the diversity, the quality, and the excitement that's around our entertainers. And this is the biggest stage in the world. And I know people want to be part of that.
But can you at least acknowledge, Roger, that there is a segment of people that don't want to be associated with the Kaepernick?
Jared, just to be clear for something, we have close to 200 million fans, as I talked to before. We know that there are segments that are going to have different reactions to different things and that go on in our league. But ultimately, I think people respect and admire the things we do and want to be part of it.
All right.
Yes.
Hi, I'm Kimna Clancy. How do you balance being a fan of the game and commissioner at the same time?
Well, that's a really good question, Cabinet. Listen, the number one thing is I am a fan. I like to tell people all the time, I became a fan when I was 5 years old, probably a little bit younger than you. And I love the game. I always did. And that hasn't changed at all. My passion for the game and my interest in the game is what drives me. And being able to help and support that as commissioner and to have an influence ultimately on the growth of the game, the success of the game, the health of the game is something that I don't think separates me from my role as a fan. I think the two go really well together. And I'm not sure you could do this job as commissioner without being a very enthusiastic and passionate fan. It's a good question, though, Camden.
Roger, Sal Palantonio from ESPN. Good afternoon.
Hey, Sal.
Roger, going back to the situation in New Orleans in the NFC Championship game, I think football fans all over the country, and especially in New Orleans, just want to hear in your own words what you may have said to Coach Payton or Mrs. Benson about the situation and what you thought of the play.
Sal, as I just, you know that I never disclose my private conversations with anybody. I was very open, just as I was here. It's a play that should be called. We're going to make sure that we do everything possible to address the issues going forward. And and see if there are improvements that we can make through instant replay or anything else. I understand the emotions. It's important as commissioner and all of our staff, which several of us have done, is to hear that emotion, whether it's frustration, disappointment, anger. Those are things, quite frankly, I hear frequently during the season from clubs. But I understand the stage, and I understand the importance of it to New Orleans and to this franchise and to the NFL. And so I made them aware of the fact that I was committed to doing everything possible to think outside the box and try to come up with solutions.
Roger, Judy Batista from the NFL Network.
Hi, Judy.
Morning. Several former game officials say that perhaps one way to avoid missing calls, the way the game is being played, is to add an official to the crews. I'd like to know what your feeling is on that. And also, if that does not happen and there are no rules changes involving instant replay, are you comfortable going into the 2019 season with things status quo, given what we just saw in the NFC Championship game?
Two things. One is I am, if we go through the process of fully evaluating, are there changes we can make? If we determine that it is not in the best interest of the game, through the competition committee and through our membership, that's how we operate. And as long as we do that with a sincere effort to improve the game, that's where we'll go. On the first part of it, I don't think adding an official is an answer to all the issues, and to particularly this issue. We have evaluated an eighth official for many years. It's on the competition committee agenda. It has been for several months. And so we will explore that. But I think that in and of itself is not just going to be a simple, that will avoid all mistakes. Again, adding an eighth official is one more human. One more human that will make mistakes like all the rest of us. I don't know if we...
Roger, Mike Bettis from the Weather Channel. Current forecast for the game, 62 and cloudy. You have the sole discretion whether or not the roof is open or closed. Which way are you leaning?
Thanks for the update on the weather. I didn't know that one. I think as we get closer to the game, we'll evaluate that. We've talked an awful lot about, we love the idea of being able to show off the technology and the roof that exists here at the Mercedes-Benz Stadium. Those are decisions that we'll have to make closer. Not that I'm questioning your forecast, by the way, but it's still a few days away before we'll have to make that decision.
Hey, Roger, Ryan O'Halloran from the Denver Post. In October, one of Pat Boland's brothers sued the three-person trust who runs the organization, wanting them removed from power. Two-part question, how concerned are you that this dispute has reached the courts? And also, have you decided whether the league will be involved with the arbitration request by the trustees?
Well, as you know, that is an ongoing dispute. It is one that our office and myself in particular may be involved with. So I'm limited in how much I can say at this point in time. I guess I'd say in the short term that it's sad when disputes like this occur. It's not something that I think Pat Boland, who I knew very well, would have wanted. The Broncos meant a great deal to him and to his family. And I think this week the best thing we could do is to focus on Pat, his contributions, and his viability to become a new member of the Hall of Fame.
Commissioner, hola. Luis Alberto Martinez from Televisa Deportes, Mexico. Can you talk about this bond of trust you have with our country and the chance to watch two great teams next season, two divisional rivals, and the Chargers and the Chiefs?
Well, let me start with saying that we've had a tremendous relationship with Mexico's officials, the people, the fans, and we're very proud of that. We were all a little disappointed when we weren't able to play there this year, but I believe all of us did the right thing. But as you know, I came down to Mexico. I met with the incoming president, who's now the president. believe we established a very good relationship. Our partners in Televisa, and they're all very eager for us to return next season, as we are. And I believe we're going to continue that relationship. And I believe that we're going to continue to grow the game of football in Mexico. I think we're going to be great for Mexico because I think it puts it on a stage that I think is great for the country and show all of the assets and the value that Mexico have. But I also think it's great for the NFL and for our fans, most importantly.
Roger, Gary LaPlante, 7 News WHDH in Boston, the news station. I have 2 quick questions for you. First, the league is taking some heat over the canceled halftime news conference. Could you explain the decision to cancel that Maroon 5 news conference?
I wasn't expecting that one. I will tell you that when we have looked at how we do things around the Super Bowl, that includes press conferences, that includes announcements, we have all looked at how the world is changing. And for us, and particularly for our artists in this case, one of the things they really wanted to do is be able to use the new opportunities that we all have through social media and other platforms to be able to reach their fans directly, tease the show a little bit, make sure they understand the inside of what's happening. And I think both the NFL, Pepsi is our sponsor of that, and our artists are very excited about that. We think it's innovative, we think it's great for our fans, and we support that. And as we look forward to the future, there may be more changes like that.
Hi, Commissioner. It's Lei Xue from Tencent Sports, home for NFL fans in China. The NFL has seen a significantly growth in our global fan base and demonstrated a commitment to bring the game closer to fans outside of U.S. with the regular season games being played in the UK and Mexico. But where does China rank? And when it comes to the NFL international expansion? And what is the league doing in order to improve the accessibility and the growth of the game in China? Thank you.
Thank you for the question. Listen, China is a priority market for the NFL. We believe that our game has a great deal of potential to expand, to grow, and to bring new fans into our game. You mentioned that we've had tremendous growth there. We've had double-digit growth this past year in China in our fan base and people engaging with our game. So we're excited about it. We've spent a great deal of time, not only with our international committee, but internally with our staff, just in the last few weeks, talking about some very exciting ideas, not just around a regular season game, but using media and using partnerships to expand our game. I believe that's moving very quickly in a very positive way, and I hope sometime in the next couple of months we're going to have some very exciting announcements.
Sí. Hola, comisionado John Sutcliffe de ESPN. On Sunday, the Super Bowl will be broadcast in the U.S. in CBS in English, ESPN Deportes in Spanish. What do you see, taking into account the largest minority market in the U.S. is the Hispanic, just the growth of the Hispanic market in the U.S.? Gracias.
Well, as you know, that has been our fastest growing audience, the Hispanic audience, and it's not by accident. It's one, because I think of their passion and love of the game. Two, it's because of partnerships that we've had, including with ESPN Deportes, our game in Mexico, and our marketing team focusing on bringing the game to those fans and giving them an opportunity to understand it and to develop that passion. And every time I'm out, whether it's in Mexico or in the States, you see fans all over talking about how their love of the game grows. And I hear that a lot from our Hispanic fans as well as others. And so we're going to continue to feed that. We're going to continue to do everything we possibly can to continue that growth and maybe even accelerate it.
Commissioner Gabe Gutierrez with NBC News. With regards to the NFC Championship controversy, why did you wait so long in order to address the controversy? And what would you tell, again, those Saints fans? Should the Saints be here, and is this game tainted?
As I said to you, we addressed this immediately after the game. We spoke to the coach. The coach announced the conversation and the fact that this play should have been called. And we had several conversations with those clubs and other officials over the next several days. That's our process. That's what we always do, particularly with judgment calls. And so it was handled no differently, other than to make sure that we listened and communicated that to the officials. They did a lot of communicating. We did a lot of communicating for things like Rule 17 and others that came up. As I said to you, over our history, unfortunately, we have had officiating errors and other factors that have been a lot of focus and news, but the game of football is played on the field, and they're played by humans, they're coached by humans, and they're officiated by humans. And that's what our game is. And so we think that we're proud, obviously, of having the Patriots and the Rams here. We understand the disappointment of the Saints fans, the organization, and the players, and we understand that.
Commissioner, this is Clarence Hill with the Fort Worth Star-Telegram. The Cowboys haven't been to the Super Bowl since 1996, but Jerry Jones has a role with the Rams in the Falcons Stadium through his Legends hospitality. Is that a conflict of interest, and how do other teams view that, or is that simply just good for business?
Clarence, that's not unusual. He actually had a role through Legends of selling PSLs here in this market and tickets. And so Legends as a company, which Jerry has a ownership interest, a significant ownership interest in, has been a very successful marketing company. They have a specialty in how to market new stadiums, and they have been extremely effective. So our clubs have used them if they believe that that's the best option for them, and they have been in many cases.
Dana Jacobson with CBS News. Commissioner, you mentioned the stadium Mercedes-Benz, and Arthur Blank's pricing model that he rolled out obviously has had an impact there. We've seen it now in some baseball stadiums. Also, a few other NFL teams are following suit. Is this fan-friendly pricing model something that you'd like to see other teams try to adapt into their stadiums?
Absolutely. And I think the innovation and I think the courage of Arthur Blank and the Falcons organization, I think they listened to their fans. I think they had the courage to come up with a different pricing structure, and that's something that I think every club has to make those individual decisions. But I would tell you, other teams in our league are watching. They're learning from that, and I believe if they have the right opportunity, they're going to implement that in their communities. But that's a team-by-team decision. That's not something we dictate from the league or anywhere else.
Commissioner Ken Belson from the New York Times. What are you or the league doing to reduce the reliance on highly addictive painkillers, and are you expanding your look at medical marijuana and allowing players to use it during the season?
Well, Ken, we rely on our medical advisors to give us advice. We have a number of them in what we call the pain management umbrella. They look at this constantly. They look at the data. They look at the science, and they make those recommendations to us on that basis. We obviously put this as a huge priority for us, to making sure that we're taking care of our current players as well as our former players. And the union and the NFL have worked very closely on this, and will continue to. We have mutual medical advisors. We have separate medical advisors. And Dee and I spoke about this just in the last 2 weeks. What can we do to continue to look at the science and look at medical advancements to see if we can offer assistance, prevention when necessary, to make sure that we're doing things better.
Commissioner, thank you for your time. President Trump has commented he thinks there are too many penalties called in games these days. How does it impact your efforts to make plays safer when the president is calling for harder hits?
Well, as you know, we have a lot of fans, the president among them, and there are probably a lot of fans who think we do have too many fouls. Ironically, that's not what the issue is that we just heard in New Orleans. What we really try to do is make sure that our game is officiated at the highest levels. If there are fouls, they're important to be called. And we look at that every year of how do we make sure that officiating is not a point of subject or point of discussion either with our fans or clubs or players or anybody else once the game is completed. And that's something that we'll continue to do.
Hey, Roger. Jason Lockenfor, CBS Sports. As you noted at the beginning of your comments, we're here in Atlanta, one of the hallmark cities of the civil rights movement, where so many Americans at various points of time stood up for what they believed in. There's a segment of this society now that believes Colin Kaepernick took some similar actions, and we're now 2 years, I guess, removed from him being in the NFL. Are you comfortable collectively with how the league has responded to that, and do you have any concerns how history might look upon that?
Jason, I've said it many times privately, publicly, that our clubs are the ones that make decisions on players that they want to have on their roster. They make that individually. They make that in the best interest of their team. And that's something that we as the NFL take pride in. Individual clubs make decisions that maybe another club won't do. And they all want to win. And they're all going to do whatever they can to win. So from our standpoint, that's our focus. And that will continue to be our focus.
Roger, Andrew Marchand, New York Post. Just to follow up on that question, why specifically do you think Colin Kaepernick, though, hasn't been signed over the last few years?
I think it's a repeat of what I just said, which is I think if a team decides that Colin Kaepernick or any other player can help their team win, that's what they'll do. They want to win, and they make those decisions individually in the best interest of their club.
Commissioner Goodell, over here in the wheelchair. Dave Stevens with the Disability Channel. On behalf of the Disability Channel, I want to thank the NFL for embracing us this year for 5 games and our first coverage of the Super Bowl. My question for you is, you've had success moving the draft around as an event, and I'm wondering if you would ever consider moving the Super Bowl to a non-NFL city, maybe in Hawaii or something fun, even overseas, just to be crazy, just something outside the box to give the fans that don't have those kind of opportunities.
I know people say I do a lot of crazy things, but that's one that our membership has looked at over the years. And I think it goes back to the question earlier that these Super Bowls are so valuable to the communities that we operate in. We have 32 franchises. And I think we want to reward the fans in those communities. We want to reward those communities that help build great stadiums like Mercedes-Benz Stadium. The fans that help build Mercedes-Benz Stadium, that help support the Falcons, to put those communities on a stage that is unmatched in any event in the world. And so for our standpoint, I think, at least for the foreseeable future, and we're probably 4 or 5 years out on Super Bowl locations, I don't see that changing. I think that's the loyalty we have to our communities and to our fans.
2 more questions.
Commissioner Tom Lydon, Boston 25 News. A Patriots question for you. We're in the 25th year of the Kraft family ownership, and that family has led this team to the Super Bowl 10 times. From your perspective, to what do you attest that level of consistent success?
Well, you're right, and I've said this many times before. You know, we struggled going back in the 80s in New England with a stadium, with the potential of a relocation of the franchise. And that all changed when Robert and Jonathan and the Kraft family bought that team. It changed because he brought that leadership, that passion as a fan, the incredible business acumen that he has. He got a world-class stadium built. He's built a world-class organization that has had unparalleled success over the last 20 years, 25 years. And that's a tribute to the Kraft family. They are extraordinary, not just in the local market, where I think they understand their fans. They have created incredible experiences. They're innovative. But I also can't think of many owners that have been as involved, as impactful on league level matters. Robert and Jonathan both serve on an array of committees. They're engaged in league matters and have made a huge difference. And I can say that personally as commissioner, he's made a difference. They both have made a difference for me.
Last question. Go through far right.
Roger, Ian Rappaport, NFL Network. Two specific questions on two of the more high-profile disciplinary cases. One on Kareem, along with wanting a general update on these. On Kareem Hunt's situation, he's obviously no longer with the team. Will he receive sort of credit, for lack of a better word, for the games he missed when he was released by the Chiefs for his potential suspension? And then for Reuben Foster, whose charge was just dropped in Tampa, do we know whether or not he will be suspended for that?
Let me take them individually because it's not fair to put them together. Kareem Hunt, I think everyone knows that he is, that issue is under investigation. It has been. He is a free agent. If he is signed by a club, I think all clubs understand that he'll go on the commissioner exempt list at that point in time until the discipline process has concluded. Whether there's discipline or not discipline, we would finish the investigation and then make a determination. So that hopefully will happen soon, but we haven't concluded the investigation and we're working to do that. There has been a tremendous amount of progress, though, in that investigation over the last, I'd say, 30 to 60 days. On Reuben Foster, you mentioned that his charges were dropped. We continue our investigation into that. Whether the charges are dropped doesn't necessarily mean there isn't a violation of our personal conduct policy. Reuben and I have met before. We will talk again, but we'll conclude that investigation, make a determination, and we'll go from there.
Okay, thank you. Trophy. Where? Just stand right in the center. Yep.